Now to that budget battle in Washington and the possible government shutdown next week in a dispute over Obamacare. In a CBS News New York Times poll out tonight, 80% of Americans say threatening a shutdown is no way to negotiate. If there is a shutdown, 44% say they will blame the Republicans, 35% said they would blame the president and the Democrats. One Republican who is in the thick of this is Ted Cruz of Texas. He's fighting a losing battle in the Senate to make sure any budget deal cuts off funding for Obamacare. Cruz completed a 21-hour-plus talkathon on the Senate floor today, and Nancy Cordes is on Capitol Hill.
After 21 hours and 19 minutes, Ted Cruz stepped off the Senate floor and declared victory.
This was all about elevating the debate in the public and giving the American people a chance to speak.
But once other Republicans had the chance to speak, they said they disagreed with Cruz and did not want to hold up a funding bill and risk a government shutdown just to wage a doomed fight to defund Obamacare. Indiana Republican Dan Coates.
The reality is that we will need 13 Democrats to override a presidential veto.
They did give Cruz points for passion. He spoke continuously through the night, filling some of the time with references to children's books.
I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them. Sam, I am.
TV shows.
Phil also said very simply, happy, happy, happy.
And movies.
And just like in the Star Wars movies, the Empire will strike back.
He even compared opponents of his strategy to Nazi appeasers before World War II.
Neville Chamberlain, who told the British people, accept the Nazis. Yes, they'll dominate the continent of Europe, but that's not our problem. Let's appease them.
That angered some fellow senators, including Arizona's John McCain.
That allegation, in my view, does a great disservice for those brave Americans and those who stood up and said, what's happening in Europe cannot stand.
All 100 senators, including Cruz, voted today to formally begin debate on the funding bill. Cruz is trying to convince his Republican colleague, Scott, to try to block the passage of that bill later in the week.
Nancy, thanks very much. You know, we wondered earlier today whether Senator Cruz had made the cut in history's longest Senate speeches. The research department tells us that number one is Strom Thurmond of South Carolina, who spoke against a Civil Rights Act for 24 hours and 18 minutes. Alphonse D'Amato of New York tried to save a favorite defense contract, speaking 23 hours and 30 minutes, and Wayne Morse of Oregon went 22 hours and 26 minutes, which means that Senator Cruz has secured his place in history at number 4.